Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, it is week 6 of the college football season, which is crazy to think about. The calendar has flipped to October, and we now have a Friday night slate on our hands. We're going to break down the week 6 Friday night slate for Friday, October 3rd. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about the 4 games that are on the DraftKings main slate, as well as who needs to be in or out of your DraftKings lineups, as well as any angles you might want to take if you are playing player props or betting on these 4 games, or if you're just a good old-fashioned fan of college football, we've got stuff for you here as well. But we're in the thick of college football season now, y'all. So we're going to have a ton of college football content coming your way. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for all of that. If these videos help you out in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton of you guys do that, and I really do appreciate it. But, we've got kind of a point where we're kind of in a rhythm. We've got a lot of college football slates going on, and we're going to get to as many of them as we can here on this channel. It is thoroughly my plan here this week to cover this Friday slate as well as the Saturday slate and then the Saturday night slate as well. And we're also probably going to have a live show Friday night this week. So if you're subscribed to the channel, you will be able to know when all that content drops, and you will be able to tune in live when we do the live stream Friday night. But anyway, that does it for the intro, y'all. We got 4 games to break down, so let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so I got to be honest. I thought it was a really weird job by DraftKings in selecting games for this Friday night slate. I think one of the best games in terms of fantasy scoring that's being played Friday night is not on the slate, and I don't know why. It's Western Kentucky playing Delaware. Those are 2 competent offenses. Those are 2 Conference USA teams that are going to be very much in the spotlight on the Tuesday and Wednesday night slates for the next month, and DraftKings decided not to include them. I don't really know why. It's not like we don't have G5 games on this slate, because 3 of the 4 games are group of 5 conference games. So I just don't really know what DraftKings was doing. But anyway, we've got a nice little 4-game slate. And the one thing I will say about this slate is this is probably one of the worst slates at the quarterback position I have seen in recent memory, especially among 4-game slates. We have got injuries, we have got backups, we have got position battles still, and there's just a lot of uncertainty at the position. However, I do think there is some top-tier options, but on paper, those top-tier options are priced because the way the algorithm works, they're so much better than their competitors that you're going to have to pay a pretty penny for them. So what I think you're going to see this week is I think you're going to see ownership really condense around a few quarterbacks and trying to get an advantage by playing a low-owned quarterback is going to be a legitimate strategy, or it might also be a strategy to just say, hey, I'm just going to play the top quarterbacks and I'm going to try to get different elsewhere. That's something that I think you need to keep in mind when you're building your lineups here for this Friday night slate. So let's go ahead and talk about game number 1. We got Charlotte taking on South Florida. The spread is USF minus 27.5 points with a game total of 56.5, which is the second highest on the slate. That means the score is about 42-14 in favor of the Bulls of South Florida. I'm a Charlotte alum. I take great pride in being a Charlotte fan. I worked for the program for the first 4 years of its existence. This is not great times for Charlotte right now. Their starting quarterback, Connor Harrell, is out for the entire season. He got injured in the Rice game. The backup, Grayson Loftus, is going to start. Now, it's kind of like good news, bad news with this situation, right? Because there was a quarterback battle in camp that came down to Harrell and Loftus. So, Loftus is not that far behind Harrell. He has played in 3 of the games so far this season because Harrell has been in and out of the line, banged up, and kind of happens with mobile quarterbacks. And so he's experienced. He also started a few games at Duke when he was there. So he's not, this totally green, fresh new quarterback. He's got a little bit of experience under his belt. And he's not a runner, though. Like Connor Harrell was very much a runner, very much a mobile quarterback. And so a lot of the offense predicated on the use of his legs. The good news for Charlotte is that they've had over 2 full weeks off now from the Rice game. The Rice game was played on a Thursday night. This game is going to be played on Friday night. So they've had a full 15 days to know the status of Harrell and to prep this offense for Loftus. And we see this happen in the NFL a lot. We don't see this happen as much in college, where a mobile quarterback goes down and the backup is a pocket passer. What it tends to do is, even if the backup doesn't have the best game statistically, it boosts the running backs because they have a higher carry share because there's not a mobile quarterback taking their carries, and it boosts the receivers because there are more targets going their way and less, generally a higher pass rate, right? So even though Loftus on paper is a backup quarterback, on paper has not had any fancy success so far this season, I think there's a lot of silver linings to here in terms of the fact that he's not that far behind Harrell, in terms of the fact that he's going to make these skill position players for Charlotte really playable. So at the running back position, you've got Rod Gainey and CJ Stokes are the top two backs for Charlotte. Rod Gainey is the guy I would be playing. He's only $3,300. He has out-carried CJ Stokes 23-10 in the last two games. And with Henry Rutledge out and then Cameron Smith kind of becoming more and more of a non-factor as the season goes on, I really do think that Rod Gainey is the guy you want. And that's a very cheap way to get exposure to a starting rec. And then at the wide receiver position, the good news for Charlotte is they have a super condensed passing tree. They really only throw to Javen Nicholas and EJ Mason. They've combined for 58 total targets, which is nearly half of the team's total. And we've seen two big games out of both of them, right? So there's definitely some upside to playing either of them. I don't necessarily know if I would play them both together because I don't know if they're going to be that effective of a passing offense, but there's certainly argument to be made for playing one because there is a huge target share that is going to be there for those guys. And then Miles Burris is the wide receiver 3. Justin Olsen and Sean Brown have both been battling, but they're both like factors in this offense. You could absolutely play them and hope to throw a dart and hope to catch lightning in a bottle. If I haven't watched every Charlotte game, I probably wouldn't have known that. But, if you want to really go deep down the depth chart, that's the way that you could really get different is by playing an Olsen if he plays or a Sean Brown. All right, now about the USF side. So this is the highest team total on the slate because, Charlotte's not a good defensive team. They're just not. They hired a new coach, Tim Albin, who I do think is going to turn the program around. But right now, they're just not very talented on the defensive side of the ball. And USF should be able to have a field day. Byron Brown is their quarterback. Now, here's the problem with Byron Brown. He's $8,700. He has not had a game over 25 fantasy points so far this season. If you're up there at 8,700, we really want you to be getting into that 27, 28 range to feel good about value. But in 2023, Byron Brown was one of the best quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective in all of college football. He's very mobile. He has a ton of rushing upside. Hasn't really shown it all that much this season. So maybe this is the game where Byron Brown finally hits the upside because Charlotte is just not a good defense. So to me, he's absolutely the top quarterback play on the slate. He's going to be making a ton of my lineups because, like I said, there's not a whole lot of options at the quarterback position on this slate. So you're really going to be hard-pressed to find a better option than him if he does end up going for like 30 DraftKings points. At the running back position, I'm just not interested. This team has not had a running back hit 10 carries in a game all season long. It's a massive committee. I don't want any part of it. There's only one narrative here I will mention. Cartavius Norton is a transfer from Charlotte, so this is a revenge game for him. Do they try to get him in the end zone against his former team? It's a possibility. He's $3,600. Doesn't cost a whole lot to find out. At the wide receiver position, Byron Brown's explosivity in the run game means that you might not need to stack him. But he does have viable stacking partners. And it starts with Chaz Nimrod, who's been the best receiver all season long. He is the top target earner on the team with 25 through 4 games. Now, what the South offense is predicated around is making big plays. They have a huge explosive play rate. Chaz Nimrod's a big part of that. Keyshawn Singleton is a big part of that as well. He does not carry the same volume that Nimrod does. So to me, Nimrod is a much better play than Keyshawn Singleton. But Singleton is an explosive guy who could hit value in DraftKings with one big play. And then the other guy I will mention is Christian Neptune. He is actually second on the team in total targets with 24 on the season. That's about 6 a game. What's interesting about him is that he is like the low ADOT slot guy. He does not catch deep passes. He does not get explosive plays. Hasn't caught a pass longer than 15 yards all season, but he's $3,000 with some guaranteed volume against a really bad defense. I think that he's certainly worth a look and worth making your player pool. All right, game number 2 is an interesting. I don't know. I feel like that's doing a disservice to the word interesting. It's New Mexico taking on San Jose State. I'm a believer in this San Jose State Aztecs team. I don't think this is a very good line set by Vegas. San Jose State's list is 2.5-point favorites. Game total of 58.5 points, meaning the implied score is about 30-28 in favor of the Aztecs. Wait a minute. Are they the Aztecs? No, I'm sorry. San Diego State is the Aztecs. San Jose State is the Spartans. So San Jose State favored 30-28 in this game. My bad. Confused my California City state colleges that are in the Mountain West. So San Jose State being 2.5-point favorites in this game, to me, disrespectful. I think on a neutral field, San Jose State is much better than New Mexico. And that line of 2.5 suggests that on a neutral field, New Mexico might even be favored. So I'm probably going to be putting in a bet on San Jose State in this game. I am a believer in them long term. Let's talk about the New Mexico offense, though. So they've got Jack Lane at quarterback, who really did nothing until the New Mexico State game. In that game, he popped off for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. 32 DraftKings points. And what that's done is that's now caused him to have a hugely increased DraftKings salary. I think that it's much more likely that he's the guy we saw in the first 3 games, where, in 1 loss and 2 wins, he never accounted for more than 15 DraftKings points. This is an offense that doesn't prioritize the quarterback. He's not a runner. I think he's overpriced at $7,500. He's playable, but I definitely think he's in the bottom tier of playable quarterbacks here on this slate. At the running back position, there are 3 guys that I'm going to mention. So first, there's Scottre Humphrey, who is the running back 1 for this team. He's a transfer from Montana State. He's good at football. He rips off explosive runs. I like Scottre Humphrey a lot. He's $6,300. And if this is a way that, if New Mexico is implied to score 28 points in this game, then Scottre Humphrey's probably going to be accounting for a touchdown. That's just how that generally goes. He's an explosive player. I like him a lot. Then we've got Damon Bankston, who had the huge game out of nowhere against UCLA and was great in that game, 38 DraftKings points. Hasn't scored more than that total the rest of the season in the other 3 games. He's a tough click to me because I think you're paying for the upside of that one game when Scottre Humphrey is a much bigger part of the offense. And oh, by the way, I think DJ McKinney is a bigger part of the offense. DJ McKinney had more carries in that game against UCLA. He has more carries on the season than Bankston. And DJ McKinney, only $3,300, and he only has 6 less carries than Scottre Humphrey does on the season. So you bet I'm going to be playing Scottre Humphrey a lot. I think he's one of the best backs on the slate. And I'm also going to be playing DJ McKinney a lot. Probably not in the same lineup, but I know that McKinney's going to have a role in the offense, and he's only $3,300. And that's a way that you can get up to these high-priced quarterbacks and receivers that you're going to want to get to here on this slate. At the wide receiver position for New Mexico, it's weird because New Mexico's number 1 wide receiver is actually their tight end. Dorian Thomas is their leading target earner on the season with 32 through 2 games so far. He's just the best receiving option, but he's not going to break off a ton of explosive plays. You're really dependent on the volume for him for accumulating a lot of fantasy points. So he's generally not my favorite play. But again, clicked off of something there. But again, if New Mexico is going to score 28 points, it's quite likely that Dorian Thomas is going to be a big part of that. The other guy I will mention is Kansas State transfer Keegan Johnson. He is the 2nd most targeted player on the season. Had the breakout game against New Mexico State, but only, hold on, I got to find him on the list again. Only 16 targets through 3 games. That's a little over 5 a game. Not the best, but he is an explosive playmaker. Probably the best wide receiver on this team. I wouldn't have an issue with playing him. Now, let's talk about San Jose State. So San Jose State is an air raid team now. They're one of the most prolific passing offenses in the nation, as they were last year, one of the highest pass rates in the nation. Walker Eget is the starting quarterback, and he started off the season quite quietly. And it was kind of an anomaly. He was still throwing the ball quite a lot, just wasn't having a whole lot of success, wasn't accounting for a lot of touchdowns. And then the Stanford game, this is the type of stat line we like to see from Eget. Attempted 58 passes, threw for 473 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. That's what he's capable of doing because his offense is going to throw, and then throw some more. And he's $8,300. I think he's clearly the 2nd best quarterback play on the slate. Unlike with Byron Brown, though, I think if you play Eget, you are going to want to play this man stacked. He throws the ball so much. He is such a non-running threat that you're going to want to stack him with 1, maybe even 2 wide receivers. At the running back position, the pass rate that this team exhibits makes it really hard to target a running back. Floyd Chalk is their number 1 running back. He has only 1 game in double-digit DraftKings points so far this season, and it was against an FCS opponent. So I just don't think there's a whole lot of upside there. I will opt to play other running backs. I'd way rather play Scottre Humphrey at a similar price. I would way rather play Rod Gainey or DJ McKinney at a super cheap price. That's going to save me some salary and allow me to get to these San Jose State receivers because there are 2 of them that I really like. Number 1 is Danny Scudero. So last year, San Jose State had Nick Nash, who was one of the best receivers in all of college football, one of the most prolific fantasy scoring receivers in all of college football. And all the talk in the season was, who's going to be this year's Nick Nash? Who's going to take that role in the offense, right? Well, it turns out it's Danny Scudero. He's played 4 games so far and is averaging 14 targets a game, 56 total targets through 4 games. That is an insane number. He is very clearly the top wide receiver option on this slate. He has 2 games over 36 DraftKings points so far this season, and I'm going to be playing him with or without Walker Eget. He's certainly going to be in my Eget lineups. He's certainly going to be in some lineups without Eget as well because he doesn't need his quarterback to score a whole lot of points. Now, The other guy I'm going to mention is Kyrie Scholes. So Kyrie Scholes has kind of become the 1B in this offense. If you watch this team last year, he has kind of become the Justin Lockhart of this offense. 29 targets through 4 games, which is a little over 7 a game. And to me, he is the guy that you want as the second option in this offense. Had over 33 DraftKings points against Stanford a week ago. Leland Smith is the other option, and he is third on the team in targets. He's a little more of a big play threat than Scholes is, but he is behind in targets. But, it's not a whole lot. He still averages almost 7 a game with 27 targets through 4 games. But he is yet to kind of have a big breakout game, yet he's priced $2,000 above Scholes. That part I don't understand. I would way rather play Scudero and Scholes. However, I think a lot of people are going to agree with me. And so what's going to end up happening is you're going to see less ownership on Leland Smith, and he could become the pivot. Kind of remember a few weeks ago with TCU when everybody was playing Jordan Dwyer and nobody was playing Eric McAllister because he was still expensive, and then McAllister goes off for 50 DraftKings points. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but what I'm saying is that you could get a low-owned Leland Smith to really pay big dividends for you here in this San Jose State passing offense. Jackson Kanan, the tight end, is the fourth guy that I will mention. He is fourth on the team in total targets with 20 through 4 games. It's about 5 a game. That's not nothing, but I would way rather play Scholes for only $200 more. All right, that does it for the first 2 games. Let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of the show. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you reach out to me. It's as well as it's where I tweet out all of my updates for the show. So if you want to keep in the loop with what we got going on, follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. The link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of really good, really smart people who play DFS for a lot of different sports, including college football. And so we're always in there talking lineups, talking strategy. We also crowdsource injury news. So there's a lot of people who are really good about tweeting injury updates in there as well. And then it's also a lot of fun to just, watch the games and sweat it out together and just have fun, with the daily ride that is DFS. So if you're looking for people to talk DFS with, it is the place to go. If you are looking for who actually makes my college football DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. It's there where I post a weekly article with my core plays for every single college football DFS slate, as well as a write-up why they're my core plays. So I'm not going to just sit here and guarantee that you can just print off money with those plays, but I can guarantee that you can get some information and some strategy from somebody who knows what they're doing with this stuff. All right, next up, we're going to move on to game number 3. We got Colorado State taking San Diego State. Y'all, this is, there's just a lot of states here on this slate. There just really is. Anyway, in this game, San Diego State is 5.5-point favorites. Game total is lowest on the slate, 40.5, meaning the implied score is about 23-17 in favor of the Aztecs. I got it right this time. Now, big reason why Colorado State is projected to be so low is because this is a team that just does not have an offensive identity. 2 years ago, when they played the famous double overtime game against Colorado, they were running the air raid. Braden Power-Nicolosi was throwing it all over the yard. Last year, they go this ground and pound where they've got good running backs and a good run game. And this year, they don't have either of that. And they've turned to a backup quarterback. It's Jackson Brousseau. He's going to probably be the start of this game. I haven't seen anything that indicated otherwise. He did start the last game for Colorado State, and it wasn't good. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, and he didn't top double-digit DraftKings points. I just cannot trust him at all. San Diego State is a team that does play pretty good defense. If you can't score a touchdown against Washington State, how can I have any confidence in you to score touchdowns against anybody? Because Washington State is not a good defensive team. So I just don't think this is a good spot for Brousseau. He's a hard pass for me. Now, at the running back position, there are 2 guys I have to mention. The first one is Jalen Dupree. He is this team's carry leader on the season with 53. He does get some usage in the passing game as well. He's kind of run a little cold on touchdowns. He hasn't scored since week 1, but like I said, the entire offense has been stuck in the mud. So if you do think that they get back on track a little bit, he might have a little bit of upside. And then Lloyd Avant is the RB2. He's had a little more success this season from a yards per carry perspective than Dupree, but he hasn't gotten the ball as many times. He's been double-digit DraftKings points the last 3 games. He's $3,900. I don't think it's the best play in the world, but it's far from the worst here on this slate. Especially considering, you got a backup quarterback playing. Why not try to establish a low run? Now, at the wide receiver position, Colorado State does have 2 guys I'm kind of interested in, I guess I should say. The first one's Tommy Marr. He is the team's target leader on the season. Hasn't really turned it into a whole lot of production, but the problem is like he's just due for some regression. Like he's being targeted almost 6 times a game, and he hasn't turned into DraftKings performance over 11 DraftKings points. That's bad, but he's due for some regression. He hasn't scored a touchdown on the season. He's due. I just wish DraftKings didn't price him up at 5,600. If he were 4,600, he'd be a smash play. I also like Armani Winfield. Doesn't have as many targets as Mar, but he is an explosive guy. He does create some things in the offense. He's only $3,800. I think there's certainly worse options out there than him at 3,800. Jackson Warren and Rocky Beers, the two tight ends, do see a lot of targets as well, but they're kind of splitting snaps when they're both active, and we don't really know what's going to happen with Warren. It makes both of them a tough click, especially considering that this is one of the last games of the night. On the San Diego State side, they've got Jaden Denegal at quarterback. He is a Michigan transfer, and if I showed you this stat line and told you that it was a Michigan quarterback, you'd probably believe me. He hasn't topped 14 DraftKings points in a single game all season. He has no rushing upside. He is priced at $7,000. I'm not interested. This game is going to be just a drag him out, like just mush fest. I just have no desire to play Jaden Denegal at $7,000 at the running back position. This is what I do like. San Diego State has a condensed offense, so you can play skill guys from this team, including Lucky Sutton, who is the workhorse running back, at least 12 carries in every single game so far, leads the entire slate on carries, including carries per game. So he's definitely the workhorse running back of the slate. He's the guy you want to be targeting if you want like a high floor, safe, guaranteed touches running back. I think he's clearly one of the best running back plays on the entire slate. At the wide receiver position, this is a position where San Diego State is also very condensed. Jordan Napier has 34 targets through 4 games. That is a little over 8 a game. Second on the team is a tie between Donovan Brown and Jacob Bostic with only 18. So you're getting a significant target edge to Jordan Napier. He has turned in one pretty big performance and then 2 over 13 DraftKings points. It's not terrible. I think he's in a pretty good spot here against Colorado State. 6,200 is a reasonable price tag. In a vacuum, I would rather play the San Jose State receivers, but this is a super condensed target tree, and you can definitely get access to Napier at an affordable cost. All right, last game of the night is going to be West Virginia taking on BYU. BYU is 18-point favorites here in this one with a game total of 47.5, meaning the implied total is about 33-14 in favor of the Cougars. And there's a reason why. It's because West Virginia, we don't know what they're going to have at quarterback. Nico Marchiol, the starter to start the season, is listed as out. The backup to start the season, Jalen Henderson, started last game, left it early. He's listed as questionable. Charlotte transfer Max Brown, QB3 to start the season. He came in the Utah game. He ran the ball twice. He got knocked out of the game. He's questionable now. And then Scotty Fox Jr. is the guy that kind of finished the Utah game, and he didn't really do a whole lot. So you're just looking at an absolute mess here. It could end up being Jalen Henderson. Yeah. Does he have a little bit of rushing upside if he starts? Yeah. But do I have any confidence he's going to finish the game? No. So I just don't really have a whole lot of confidence in any quarterback here in this West Virginia team, especially because this is the last game of the night. We're probably not going to know who's starting at quarterback for them before the start of the slate. I think you can avoid this situation entirely. Now, I would have interest in a West Virginia running back if I knew that Ty Edwards was going to be active, because Ty Edwards for the Pitt game was their workhorse running back, and that's what we like to see, right? But he hadn't played since then, so we don't really know what to make of it. Clay Ash has been kind of used as this like pass catching back role that might have a little bit of value, but I don't know who's throwing to him, and I don't know if the offense is going to have a whole lot of success. And then Sincere Bowers didn't play in the Utah game. Why? I don't know, but apparently he's not listed on the injury report for this one. It's just, you don't have to play anybody from West Virginia if you don't want to, y'all. In fact, the most played guy in West Virginia is the receiver one, Cam Vaughn. He transferred BYU. BYU is an interesting team because they kind of have been really conservative on offense far this season. Haven't really seen them have a game where they've really gotten aggressive and really opened it up and just really, kind of dominated somebody. but they have let Bachmeier do a little bit more in recent games. He is now 2 straight games over 22 DraftKings points. He's certainly one of the top quarterback plays on this slate, has a ton of rushing upside. So he's a guy that's certainly going to end up in a lot of my lineups, especially considering West Virginia has just gotten dominated in their few games in the Big 12 so far this season, especially by mobile quarterbacks as well. Parker Navarro from Ohio really lit them up also. So I do think this is a good spot for Bear Bachmeier. It creates a situation where you have like this such clear top 3 quarterbacks on the slate between Brown, Eget, and Bachmeier. And the way the slate is set up, it's almost daring you to go somewhere different. But they're not priced down enough to make me really think that they're going to be great values. The only guy that I'm really strongly considering for my Mason Loftus. I probably won't play Denegal, probably won't play Brousseau, probably won't play Lane. Maybe I'll Lane. You know, I kind of got to get to 5 quarterbacks if I'm playing a lot of lineups. So maybe I'll get to Lane. But definitely that top 3 of Brown, Eget, and Bachmeier is very clearly the big 3 here on this slate. Now, at the running back position, BYU has a little bit of a workhorse in LJ Martin. He's not the biggest workhorse on planet Earth. I mean, he only has 55 carries through 4 games, partly because Bear Bachmeier is taking some of those carries as well. But he gets usage in the passing game. He's only scored once this season, so he's due for a little bit of regression in that regard. I like LJ Martin. I, in a vacuum, would rather play Lucky Sutton, maybe Scott Trey Humphrey, but LJ Martin's certainly one of the top running back plays on this slate. At the wide receiver position, we do have a fairly condensed target tree, but like I said, with Bear Bachmeier taking a lot of running on his own, with offense being fairly conservative, you don't have a whole lot of prolific wide receiver scores coming up on DraftKings so far this season. Chase Roberts is their wide receiver 1, is the most targeted player on the season, 26 in 4 games. But he's only had 1 game over 15 DraftKings points. That's not a whole lot to feel confident about. Parker Kingston's their wide receiver 2. He hasn't topped 12 DraftKings points in a season. The tight end, Carson Ryan, has 2 games over 12 DraftKings points, but he's not really producing a whole lot of splash plays or big plays. You're going to need him to score a touchdown to hit value. So I do think you can play Bear Bachmeier unstacked. I do think you could go with like a Bachmeier-Martin stack because like I said, Bachmeier and Martin are very clearly 2 of the top plays on the slate at their position. And there's other receiving options like the San Jose State guys, like Napier from San Diego State, like some of the guys in the Charlotte USF game. So I do think you can play Bachmeier unstacked and get away with it here in that regard. All right, but that's going to do it here for this episode. Like I said, if you want the full breakdown of who's going to end up making my lineups off of this slate, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike'sMoneyPicks. If the video helped you out in any way, please hit the like button. If you're watching on YouTube, please rate and review for listening on audio. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that. I cannot stress that enough, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Best of luck to you guys on the Friday night slate. It should be a fun little Friday night, and I will see you guys next time.